Here, thank you. So the situation is bad. This was before the pandemic, okay, 2017. It has been shown all over the world that the coronavirus, the COVID-19, made things worse. Okay, so if you have a lot of inequality, that means that we are not doing the right things, even though we have a lot of technological advances, scientific advances. Still, we have wars, we have, inflation, we have many problems in many parts of the world. Okay, so distribution of wealth is not very good. I don't know if you agree with me. Okay, but I think it's bad. Some people can even, Okay, here I made a list, a comparison between companies and countries. Okay, here, for example, we have Apple, Microsoft. This is the Arabian oil company, Saudi Aramco. Aramco is Arabian American company. Okay, it was founded by the United States and the Saud family. Amazon, Alphabet is a conglomerate that owns Google and health and telecommunications companies. It's a big company. Yeah? So let's compare the market value of these companies. Market value means the value of all the stock market added up of the company. Okay, so you can buy some stocks of Apple or Samsung, etc. General Electric, and for example, Apple is equivalent to the twice the gross domestic product of Mexico. Gross domestic product is all the products are produced by country. Food. Mexico now is making a lot of cars, Japanese cars, Chinese cars, mostly Japanese, European, Volkswagen, that are exported to United States. Okay, they pay low salaries, so everything that a country produces is called the gross domestic product. We have, for example, here Alphabet is the same, $1.5 trillion as Russia. The whole Russia. Okay? So these companies are all over. Okay? Do you know what is the difference between the gross domestic product, GDP, and national product? We have the gross, some things about economics. Gross domestic product is different from the national domestic product. What is the difference? Gross means everything that's produced inside the country. What's the difference? For Lebanon, it's very important difference. Okay, this usually is larger. You know what remittances are? Remittances. In Arabic, how do you say remittances? Lebanese people are sending money abroad, outside, to relatives. How do you call that in Arabic? Remittances. Very important. Say it again. Exports? No. Mexicans go to the United States and they have a family in Mexico and they send money back home. Yeah. Okay. So you have exports of goods, imports, manufacturing, etc., but also money. People send money. So in some small countries, like in the Caribbean islands, or in Mexico, or Salvador, or Honduras, a lot of money comes from people living in the United States, in Canada, in Europe. Okay, so the national income has to do with, see, let's say national income. National income has to do with the money you receive. Also, you could put debts. If a country has a huge debt, you are getting money, but you have to pay it back, to banks. Okay, that happened in Argentina. Argentina is a nice country in South America with bad inflation, like Lebanon, and they had debts with the internationally monetary funds. Okay. in a time of crisis, you get money, you get debt, you're indebted, but they have to pay. So it's like a company, if you sell, but you have debts, you have to be paying interest. So these companies are very important because they are all over. I see that Pepsi, Coke, cars. So some of the companies like Nestlé, Nestlé, originally says Switzerland. It's based in Switzerland, but they are all over. They sell more, they get more money in Brazil or in Mexico than in Switzerland. So those are companies that don't belong to countries. Okay? Actually, there is support, they are supported, and they make money for rich people in Lebanon, Brazil, France, etc. Okay? So you have two structures, countries and companies. And some of the companies at international are very important. Okay? So there's always contradictions, because companies don't want to pay money, or they move to countries where they pay lower salaries. So Trump is right. Many of the industries in the United States have moved to China, to Mexico, to Brazil. Okay? That's capitalism. For example, Detroit, 100 years ago was fantastic. They were producing cars, not very rich, but now is depressed. So many of the industrial areas in the rich countries, France, United Kingdom, are depressed. And they hate foreigners because they are taking over jobs, Okay? But the companies do that, because they move to places where they can produce cheaper products. Okay? So it's interesting how economy works all over. We're in a time of globalization. Okay, also let me talk about two different important concepts in economics. See, this one has to do with how much money you get in a country and how much money you spend. A very stupid example, I don't like it, is the cost of a hamburger, of a McDonald's hamburger in all over the world. It's cheaper in Mexico, in Philippines, than in Norway, or than in the United States. So that gives you an idea of how much food costs. But of course, people have done it better. Economists for every country, they analyzed the basket of goods and services. How much money you spend in transportation, how much money you spend in food, etc. And they tell you, well, $1 is very good in India, but if you go to Norway, it's not very good. Actually, when you escalate, you will see that sometimes it's better to live in Mexico than in Japan. If you are a doctor, for example, I know, because you get more money in Japan, but you spend a lot of money. So the standard of living has to do also with how much money you spend. Of course, if you live in Norway or Germany and you save a lot of money, that money can help you to travel to Lebanon, to Turkey, okay? But a Mexican cannot travel easily to Argentina because the currency is low, okay? So in a rich country, if you save your money and you make an effort, it's better, no? We can travel, you can do many things. Okay, another important concept is the Gini coefficient, which simply is for a number of people, X, okay, number n people, like we are here, like, I don't know, 15 people, you calculate the difference between Ali and myself in money, between you and you, you add all the differences, okay, you calculate the absolute value, normalize it, and give you an idea of the differences. Okay, if this is very small or 0, you add a number of zeros, so the Gini index is very low. It's like in statistics, they have these measures of dispersion, like the standard deviation, something like that, similar differences. And the Gini index in a country gives you an idea of inequalities. If it's very high, then some very people have a lot of money, right? And here I have a plot, a map of countries, okay? It's an average. So we see, for example, that there is dark the inequality is higher, Gini index is high. Like South Africa, parts of South Africa, Saudi Arabia is bad, Mexico also is bad. The United States is more unequal than Canada. Okay, Australia is better. I don't see hit Lebanon. Okay, Yemen. So that gives you an idea, more or less, of the difference between rich and poor. Of course, this analysis is more or less approximated because usually rich people hide their money. Rich people are richer and they will tell you, okay? Because they can be kidnapped, or some people really want to show, I have a lot of money. And depends on the culture. And very poor people are not here. People in prisons, the statistics don't include people who are homeless, live in the streets, refugees. So inequality is even worse than the official numbers usually, okay? Because the richer are richer than they claim to be, and the poor are poorest, right? So Lebanon is an interesting country because it's a small country, nice country, but has had a lot of refugees. The Palestinians, the Iraqis, Syrians, okay? And also Mexico has some problems. We'll see about Mexico. Mexico is neighbor to the United States. The border is very complicated because you have a lot of migration, drugs flowing to the United States, weapons coming to Mexico, okay? So this sentence, very famous in Mexico, that is, Mexico is so close to the United States, but so far from God, because it's a lot of problems also. Okay, can you read this? Let's see if you can read it. So, successful big companies are big because they are very efficient. They are defeating in competition. They are more efficient than other companies in this war competition. See, but nobody has selected them. The market made them important, but they are not very democratic. The main goal of companies is not to help people. The main goal is to make money. Okay? So the goal is not very, very good. And also to make money, they don't want to pay taxes. So they influence governments. Okay? Say it again? In Europe they have problems. In Europe they have big problems because they try to not pay taxes. They move to Ireland. They have an army. They have a lot of good accounting people. They have a lot of engineers. They have a lot of people who know finance, and they're always trying to pay less money. For example, let me give you an example that was very famous in Mexico and the United States. Like Slim does, Carlos Slim, hello. If I have a company, I have to pay 20% of tax, right? And then what they do is the following. If you have 3 companies, you pay only 1 set of taxes. Let's say I have 3 companies. I split my companies in A, B, and C. Okay? In A, I get $1,000, I pay 20%, $200. In B, I didn't make any money. I pay nothing, right? 20% of 0 is 0. And here I lost money. Okay? Here I lost 500. Okay? I don't pay money. But they do it all together. And what they do, they add up and they say, I have 1,000 minus 500. Okay? So they pay less taxes. And this money they lost, they say in a company C, because they are together in the conglomerate, the company C is not losing money, they are investing money. Walmart says, well, I lost money because in Mexico, in the state of Yucatan, I am building another supermarket. I'm losing money. No, you're investing. So they don't pay money with investments. You know what I mean? They're not losing. Actually, they're investing the money. And they save a lot of taxes. So just an example, there are many ways, depending on the law of any country, to avoid paying taxes. Okay? And they're very good because they have the best accounting people. And they also have, there is corruption, you know, at the local level, in the states, or in the states of Brazil, Colombia, etc. In Beirut, in Lebanon, you don't have states, right? Don't you have? How do you divide your country? Because, for example, in Mexico, you have municipalities. In the US, they have counties, and they have states. How do you divide politically, Ali? Government. You don't have this localized, no?
You have localized, but
Yeah?
they pay you for the government.
Okay. But how many? How do you divide Lebanon? Five? Five?
Let's say 4 major districts.
Four? Oh, it's very, very, very little, you know? In Mexico, we have 2,500 municipalities. Oh, okay. And then they elect the local leaders, and they have states. And we have 32 states: Jalisco, Yucatan, etc. So you have Oklahoma, Texas, New York. So this is a small country. So they have elections at a very small level, and there's a lot of corruption too, because taxes can be charged for the whole country, for the state, or for a small municipality. Okay? So the corruption is always a problem. No? What corruption means? That the money you get is not used well. Okay? It's a complicated term. And okay, so these companies are very powerful. So they have two structures. I want to tell you that. Two structures: we have Lebanon, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, Colombia, but we have also some networks where these companies work, and they're very influential. And sometimes they dominate the governments. So right now we have a medical diagnosis, okay, which is bad because we have some cycles of people who are exploited, excluded economically, wars. In more or less 1/3 of humanity is superfluous. What it means? They don't work well, they don't pay taxes, they don't have a good education, okay? And to fix that, you have to make money, put money into refugees, into poor people in Africa, and nobody does it. In Africa, for example, they have a lot of mineral resources, and some companies, mostly Europeans, and also Chinese, but not that much, are getting wealth. Okay, so this is the economics part, which is interesting, I think. As a summary, we used the formula of Boltzmann to understand how commerce generates inequalities. But inequalities are higher in the case of the rich people. They have better ways to make money. Okay, let me pass to another presentation. Let's go about, one second. About culture, social hierarchies, this one. Yesterday, at the AUB, I talked about culture. Very interesting because it's a source of happiness and it's a source of conflicts too. Okay? Who was there? Nobody was there yesterday. No? Okay. They were like 20 people from the university. They took two buses, and they were there. At 2 o'clock. So first, what is culture? How do you define culture? Animals have cultures also. They learn, but culture is very important for humankind. Culture is a set of things. Okay? Languages, practices, religion. And usually, well, the easiest way is to transmit these features through generations. The language you speak comes from your parents. Okay? The accent is not the same thing, the Arabic from Morocco than from Lebanon. Okay? Even in Lebanon, they speak a little different. You know? So, let's say culture is everything except genetics. Okay? There are some things I do as an animal, right? But many of the things are modified, the way I go to the bathroom, yeah, by the culture. Okay? And the idea is to show you a model, a simple model, of how culture propagates. Tell me the ideas. How culture propagates? The way you behave depends on what? What are the main mechanisms to produce culture? Of course, with parents. What else? How come Arabic is spread all over this region? How come in Latin America we speak Spanish or Portuguese in Brazil? There were many languages before, you know, and they were being lost. Okay, so I want to make a model of that. Very simple, I think. Well, by the way, I'm going to talk about something different, and then we'll put it together, about neurons. To learn, you have neurons. Do you know what are the mirror neurons? Mirror neurons. Like in a mirror, I see myself. Have you heard about them? Well, those neurons produce empathy. When I see someone doing something, even animals, chimpanzees do it. When you are doing something and you see it, you want to do the same thing. Yeah? You imitate. Okay? And that puts empathy because, like in a movie or in real life, you more or less feel the same thing as the person or actor is feeling. You identify yourself with the people who's crying, who's running, you know, you feel the same emotions. Okay? And you have a word for that in Arabic, you know? Neurons, you know? It's called. You know? So, that makes you empathic. It's used in literature, it's used in movies, you know? You see a soap opera, and you more or less feel the same as they make you feel. You know? Of course, if you are in a war, you may suffer, but if you see a movie of weapons war, you don't suffer. You know? You have emotions. You know? You go leave the movie and say, "Yeah, I'm okay." You know? So you feel emotions, you know? Not in the same way. So I'm going to talk about that. You know? About the imitation. People, you feel more or less similar. Okay. So let me talk about the model. Okay. The model is the following: every culture is going to be represented, a person, by a vector, a regiment. I took it here. So let's see, for example, in the first element, let's think about language. Okay, we have here a vector that represents a culture. It has F components. Okay? Not really a vector, because it's not direction, but it has F components. First, let's put language. No? Arabic, Spanish, Mandarin in China, French. Second, what else? What do you like? Something important. Religion, let's say religion, okay? Third, musical preferences. I like Indian music, you like rock, the other guys, salsa, whatever. Yeah? Okay, what else? Okay, so you can say, well, as a person, no? I speak Spanish, I am a scientist, I learn physics, you know? You learn computer science, you know? You went only to elementary school, that's part of the culture, you know? So you can more classify persons and with a different set of cultural characteristics. Okay? Let's simulate how culture reproduces. Okay? In this model, let's put here in this two-dimensional grid, let's put in every joint an agent. Could be a country, person, and every one of these has its own array of values. And then they say, well, let's choose randomly one agent, this one, the red one, and randomly choose a neighbor. And they interact. Okay? And the idea is very simple. If they have something in common, they will keep interacting. If I play soccer and I want to play football with someone else, and he has a different religion or he has a different taste in music, I tell him, I invite you to my concert. And he comes with me and I give him a disc. So it's interaction. Here is 1/3. Here we have one thing in common. Okay? Then I will make them copy one of these. Randomly, I choose the first or the second one. And then, if he knows Arabic and I'm Spanish, one of them will try to learn Arabic. Okay? So I make it more equal. And I do it randomly. Right? And they become more similar to each other. Interaction means that people understand each other better. Okay, has more empathy or learn some things. Okay, so I do this many times. I do this many times, and let me show what happens. Okay, let's have 3 components, F. Okay? And 2 possibilities, only 0 and 1. See, 2 languages, 2 religions, 2, okay? And we identify every culture by a color. Here we have this red color, green, blue. White is a mixture of everything, no? As Newton would say, this is white. No? All on, off, 0, okay? For example, this purple is a combination of 1 red, 1 blue. And we start, here at the left, we start here with a lot of colors. Okay, we have here a grid of different agents. And we start doing the dynamics. I choose 2 of them that are neighbors. I check if they have something in common. If they don't have anything in common, forget it. They don't talk to each other, they don't like it, they forget. Next time, I choose another one, another pair, and then if they have something in common, I make them more equal. Okay? So starting with a very multicultural initial conditions, I reach, after many iterations, I reach this situation in which the red color has the largest number of members. That's nice, eh? Randomly. Okay? And if I do it again with random numbers, maybe I get something similar, but with other color, with a yellow culture. I don't know. But the idea is that always this model make cultures more homogeneous by construction. Right? Questions? Here the model is very simple because for every component I have the same number of possibilities, q equal to 2, 0 and 1. The question is, what will happen is if instead of only using 2, I have a q equal to 10. 1 to 9 or A, B, C, D. Okay? What will happen? My dynamics, what will happen with my dynamics? We can do it. Here, we start copying. Okay? Taka, taka, taka. If you have many possibilities, then it's more difficult. The simulation takes longer times, but at the same time, it will be very difficult to have a dominant, very large culture. Okay? Here we have the red, it is very big. The blue, we have only q equal to 2. But if we put q equal to 10, then the thing will be almost like this. Okay? So this model illustrates how we get convergence. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm plotting here, in the vertical axis, the normalized size is maximum of the dominant culture, which is here the black. Okay, normalized by number of agents. So it goes from 0 to 1. The black one, finally, is the dominant. culture. Okay? And as a plot, this is a plot as a plot of Q. Okay? When Q is small, there is not much variation, then there is always a dominant culture obtained. No? But when Q is very large, above this Q critical, then it's very difficult to obtain a dominant culture. So we have more diversity. That's the word, diversity. Okay? So if you guys always eat hamburgers, listen to American music, they're the same, you have a dominant culture. But if you have a lot of variations in your cultural features, it will be more difficult to obtain a globalized state. Well, this model is nice, and physicists like it. There's no physics on it. You haven't done anything of physics. You haven't used any laws of physics. But physicists love phase transitions. Like when you pass from ice to water, you know. The transitions are studied in physics. And here we have transition. The transition more or less occurs in this model around Q equal to 60, no? More or less. Right? The final states are different depending on the variation. Okay, questions? You understand the model? Kind of simple, you know? And it's funny because you do it many times, the model, you always obtain more or less the same things, and you promulgate, you make an average, realizations, and you obtain the results. No? So we have a phase transition, and we're modeling how culture is produced, dominant cultures, randomly. But this model has to be improved, because in real life, not everything is random. Okay? If you talk about the Arab world or Latin America, it's different. What's the difference? In real life, it wasn't random. How would you improve this model? That's the question. How would you improve this model? Because this model is just random. In real life, things are not so random. What? Okay, yes. There are some cultures that are dominant, more aggressive maybe. So here, the probability of copying, this is just imitation, no? It's like I say, you know, I say with the mirror neurons, you know, you just imitate, you know? There's no rules here, it's better to imitate this culture, no, it's just copying, like crazy, you know? Like fashion. In fashion, you just copy. There is no mechanics, no? Like it's better or worse, you know? So here, see, for example, the probability of this agent copying the other is the same, 1/2. So instead of 5s here, maybe this could be 0, 0, no? So the model, there is just a random number and nobody superior. But in real life, you have cultures that are more important, more aggressive, and others. Okay? More, let's say, propaganda, publicity, war. So, okay. So in Latin America, people speak Spanish because the Spaniards went there and they were obliged to speak Spanish. Right? So this model can be modified and say, well, in this case, some colors, no, have a higher probability of conquering the others, right? Okay. So we can put a lot of things in the model, you know, I want to talk about it, you know. Actually, our network is very simple. This network is 2-dimensional, but in reality, instead of neighbors being close to each other, would be a neighbor that is far away, no? Linked by internet, no? For example. So the model has been used in other topologies, like networks, because interactions, no, are different. No? Also, in this case, for example, I'm a teacher now, professor, so I have more influence on you. Okay? So we can put some agents that are more important. Okay, more questions about this model? Here, for example, we have a mass media. This model, mass media, the interaction is among all the cultures, but it's a dominant culture. Television, for example, this is sending information to all of them. Okay? You're connected to almost all agents. That's a network. Questions about it? Okay, let me go to another source of conflicts networks. Let's pass to, for example, alliances. Where's alliances? Alliances. Excuse me? Speak louder.
Could you just speak about social quakes?
Social what?
Social quakes.
Ah, yes. Let me go. Social quakes. Social quakes. It was in the first one, which was networks of.
The folder what you sent me, are you
Yeah.
have also?
Yeah. Okay. Here it is. Okay. Here it is. Social quakes. Okay. Well, an earthquake comes because the tectonic. They store energy and they have frictions and and they have some vibrations, collisions. Suppose I remember, I think Europe, well, Asia and Europe are approaching America, very little. For every year, maybe 1 meter, I don't remember, like 1 meter. Anyways, so they are moving, and you have these vibrations that produce earthquakes. And when you check, you have a big earthquake, in Turkey or anywhere else, and they have these aftershocks, that you record in Syria and Lebanon, neighbor places, okay? And the mathematics are similar. Okay, what is a social quake? Social quake, let's measure it. Instead of using the Richter scale, mechanical, we use it as number of people being dead. If you have a big problem, people die. Okay? So the intensity of the social quake would be how many people die, for example. Okay? And both of them are characterized by intervals of high activity, tension, in this case mechanical tension, or social tension, of course, and then you have violence. Ugly, It's ugly. So we work on that in this paper, in a very important journal, and we analyzed 3 cases. We analyzed, let me put here F5. Okay, can you see it? Let's. Yeah, but I was trying to make it bigger. Okay, we have 3 wars. Analyze 3 wars. Okay, here we have Iraq invasion, Iraq war. This is Northern Ireland and Afghanistan. Okay, this is older because it was a conflict between Protestants and Catholics, Christians both. Okay, it was a fight between them. Then we have also Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay? And we can, for every day, plot the number of deaths. Okay, so it looks like earthquakes, right? And well, the point is that they are all similar. The mathematics we use to analyze earthquakes are similar to the analysis of the number of deaths. Okay, you understand more or less the idea? Okay, for example, also in Lebanon we have wars, civil wars, invasions, so you can analyze the number of deaths. The worst case is the Second World War. Okay, there's one day where many people were killed. When that happened? In the Second War, remember? There was a huge battle. Stalingrad was between Soviets and Germans. What? Hiroshima, very good, Hiroshima. Civilians mostly. Nagasaki. A big battle was Stalingrad. It was the south of Russia. So you have a big earthquake. Well, in that case, there were no aftershocks because the war ended there. Huh? And people say that bombs were thrown against Japan, but against the Soviet Union because the Soviet Union was allied. I said, well, now Germany and Japan are finished, but you have a problem. Americans showing the Soviet Union. Okay, they were allied, but so the Soviet Union works very hard to develop also the atomic bombs. Okay, so usually when you have a big conflict, then you have revenge. People kill each other, etc. So the mathematics are similar. Okay, mathematically. Okay, and we adjusted the data. Okay, of the 3 cases of Afghanistan, Iraq, and Ireland, and it's like a polar law. This is log. Similar to what I showed you before about economic physics. We can show that this is like a Pareto behavior that more or less is the same for all 3 cases. Okay, so the mathematics are similar. The mathematics are similar to earthquakes. And okay, so this part is mathematics mostly. One second. So I mean, mathematics can be used and simulations for many social problems. Okay, let's analyze how alliances and blocks are formed. Okay, groups of friends, enemies, And first, let me talk about a concept used in sociology called homophilia. Homophilia, what is that? From Greek, homo, similar. Philia, friendship, love, yes? That's right. Well, in terms of culture, nobody is equal. But you share many of the characteristics. In the vector I show, the way, you have empathy. Well, you have lots of things in common. If you have anything in common, it's more difficult to have empathy. Okay? We're all human beings, etc. So when you have religious problems, the most important thing is that religions say that we're all the same. We should be treated well, But you start thinking, oh, this guy doesn't go to church, he goes to church, he's different. No. You emphasize the differences. Okay, anyways, so you have this concept that is very important in sociology. Here, for example, I have a network of friendship in a high school in the United States. What do you think these are people? What are the colors? What they mean? The green, it's kind of red, pink, red, and yellow. It's high school.
Well, we can observe that girls get along together.
Okay, yeah, good. Yeah, could be. Well, here, let me show you. Here we have, in the United States, I got my PhD, they told you, what are you? African American, Caucasian, which is white, Indian, Asian, and others. No? They have mostly Asian, black, Native Americans, and Latinos. Arabs I don't know where they are. I know. they don't classify, no? So it's a very stupid classification, I think, no? Because Latinos in the United States, what it means, Latinos, Latin people.
People from Spanish or South South America, no, South America.
It's like Mexico.
Latin America. Latin America is a mixture of blacks, Indians, Native Americans, Europeans, Lebanese, I don't know, it's a mixture. So it's a cultural classification, different from being black, no, etc. Why, you know? So socialists don't use that. They say instead of races, they talk about I forgot the word, morphic or something like you know, you have blue eyes and you hair, so you know. This is a classification, not race. It's a classification of how you look at it. You know? Anyways, so here we have Latinos, okay, blacks and whites, okay, and which one do you think is the Latino population here? Which color corresponds to the Latin Americans? No. See, there is a huge communities or big communities among yellow and green. The pink or the red are the Latin Americans. They get along better with blacks and whites. Okay? Because of course, I mean, Latin America is a mixture. You know, you have Brazilians, Cubans, who are very black. You know, Peru, Bolivia, Mexico, Guatemala, they have a majority of Indians, and Argentina is very white. Okay, and Italians. Anyways, so here the pink ones mix better with the others. Okay, they are Latin Americans. They are born in the US, but they are sons of Mexican, Brazilian, Argentinians. Okay, now let me talk about, we have a question. Which countries joined the US in the invasion of Iraq? In 2003, they invaded Iraq. And some countries allied with the United States or didn't. You know, why? Well, let me talk about a very important model. Okay? Here we have different groups fighting each other, you know. Here we have friendship. Okay? Here it is. It's very important, okay? Formation. Suppose we have agents, we have here enemies and friends. No? I'm a friend of Ali and you, but you and you are enemies, okay? So we have two networks together, simultaneously. Friends and enemies. Okay? And there's a fight. In the blue set, we have people, 1, 2, 3, 5 people against, or countries against the green one. Right? So, ideally, you want to have your friends in the same block and your enemies in the other block. Ideally, but it doesn't happen. Sometimes you have enemies are in the same block. For example, number 2 and 9 are enemies, and we're fighting in the same block, in the same group. Okay, that's frustration, that's bad. Or the second source of frustration is that 9 and 1 are very good friends. Maybe they are brothers, no? Or cousins, and they're fighting each other. Right? So the idea is that all agents could be happy. All your enemies are in different blocks and your friends together. That doesn't happen always. Okay? Why we have those cases? We'll see. Okay? Interesting. Okay. To understand this, we want to talk about the network. Okay? Let's think. Okay. We have agents 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a matrix of relations, propensities, interactions. Okay? This is well, actually the diagonal should be here, you know, because it's myself. No? So we have non-diagonal terms, the relations between 1 and 2, 1 and 3. The propensities means how well you get along with a person or that country. And it's complicated because it has many different components. If I have a fight with Ali yesterday, he's like an enemy, I remember, no? History is bad. But you had a good collaboration, you know, he's my friend. No? So positive is friend, cheap, negative, enemy. We have a source of conflict, could be religious also, historically. We have political, here is wrong, it's political, not political. and economic. Okay? If we have trade, if we make good business, I think you are my friend. It's a positive relation, right? Well, we make money or whatever. No? So, but we have a case. You have two countries that are very different. The governments are very different. They hate each other, but at the same time they have a lot of trade. What is that country? What are those countries? Two countries.
Two countries that come together.
That have a lot of trade, they don't like each other, there may be a war amongst them, but they have a lot of money exchanging and trade. Right now, China and? Very good, China and United States. Okay, very good. Okay, so politically they're different in many senses, because let's say politically China is more left and the United States is more right. Okay, but at the same time, American companies make a lot of money. If you go to a supermarket or go to a store, I know more than half of the products are made in Asia. Either China, Vietnam, they have a lot of things made in China. Also here, no?
Yes.
No? So to have a war to stop relations with China will be very bad for the economy. Okay? In the short run, right? Okay, let me talk about, for example, the European Union. The European Union has a good thing, that if you are a lawyer in Germany, you can work in Italy. Or if you are a dentist in France, you can work in Spain. So they have a free trade agreement, more or less, but also you can move. Well, not really, because you have to pass some exams, sometimes it's not so easy. No? That's why Brexit happened, because they had many Polish people, Bulgarian, moving to England, they didn't like it. Yeah? So, different. In Mexico, we have the North American Free Trade Agreement. Goods, merchandise, money moves freely among Canada, the US, and Mexico. Okay? But there is no flux of people. Right? So it's terrible. Eh?
No open borders. Like
No open borders. No? Like in Europe. No? So, okay, let's imagine. What would happen if in this North American trade agreement, treaty, allows Mexicans to move, and Americans? What will happen? In the short run, in the middle run, short amount of time, what will happen? Well, the salary in the US is very, very large. Okay? For an hour, they pay you $10, $12. In Mexico, they pay you $10 for the whole day. Okay?
For the whole day?
Yeah. For example. No? Well, you can see average. No? I don't know. What will happen if we have a open border policy?
Mexico will be empty.
Almost empty. No, empty. Not totally. Yeah? So that's supply and demand. You'll have a lot of gardeners, chauffeurs, anything, you know? Doctors, even doctors, that would move to the United States. What will happen in this with salaries in Canada and US? Go down. Okay. And in Mexico, you have to pay more for the maid. You have to pay more for the gardener. You pay more for the plumber, you know, because there are less. So in the short run, it will be terrible because we a lot of turbulences, you know, people leaving, you know. But steady state, more or less, salaries will be more similar. Like happens in Europe. In Greece, salary is not as bad as in Mexico, no? And similar to Germany, you know, I don't know. So even in capitalism they tell you, oh, you know, we have to have free flux of capital, people can sell and buy. Yeah, but let people cross the border, you know. By the way, Sarah Najim, who was the one who invited me to come here to AUB, she has a very nice paper on the statistics of drownings in the Mediterranean. People who come from Turkey, from Africa, they want to go to Europe and they drown. And it's very similar to earthquakes. No, they have all these people dying. You know? And why? Because it's very rich. Europe is very rich. European companies exploit Africans. They get a lot of money, they get oil, they get everything, but they don't pay well. So it's a political thing, it's a historical thing, complicated, right? So in the 19th century, it used to be more open. Many people from Lebanon, from Italy, from all over the world moved, no, to Australia, to Mexico, to Brazil. In the south of Italy, there were these, it was poor because there were these, how do you call it in English? People who own land, rich people who own land, and people who were very poor, the peasants. It's like latifundios, landowners, no? Landowners, you know, and in South Italy and Greece, distribution of wealth was very bad. So many poor people, peasants, have to leave, and they went to Canada, to Australia, to etc. No, and also in case of war, you know? So it was open borders. Many Jewish people in the Russian Empire moved to United States, okay, through New York, no? Lebanese, Greek, you know. So it was very easy to move, no? Now it's not very easy, okay. So, okay, so I want to give an example of only possible reasons to have good or bad interactions amongst people, countries, and regions, okay. So we're going to use this, okay, to model. The mathematics are not very difficult, but I'm going to show you the idea, okay. Okay, let's have two choices. You drink Pepsi or Coke, okay? If you and I are friends, Ali, we're going to do the same thing. You drink Coke, I drink Coke, right? You send troops to Iraq, I'm your friend, I'm going to do the same thing, okay? If I'm your enemy, I will drink the other drink, or I won't go to war. You go to Iraq, I won't go to Iraq, okay? So the model is simple, and the idea is that we have these positive and negative relations, okay? And the idea is that we calculate the energy to minimize, okay? You have ferromagnetic, is we point in the same direction. Antiferromagnetic in physics is we point in different directions, okay? If we are enemies and we point in different directions, in the same direction, but so there's a way to minimize the energy, the frustration. The frustration is what I'm talking about, no? That the enemy is with you or your friend is on the other side. No? So this model has been employed, for example, to model the breakup. Oh, here we have an example of political spectrum, right? Maybe in the left we have Cuba, ultra left is North Korea, ultra right could be Saudi Arabia, okay, for example. In the sense that it's a monarchy, you know. So we can classify, of course, these classifications, these propensities, the J is not very easy to calculate. Depends on, you know, politics is not very easy. Huh? It's not like this. I can tell you how much is this weight, you know, what is the number of people here, but to understand and to calculate friendship is not so easy, okay? It has some source of error. Okay, so let's go to Yugoslavia, okay? Yugoslavia was broken. They had many languages. Actually, Yugoslavia is complicated because it's the boundary, like Lebanon, among many different cultures, Orthodox, Muslim, Christian, you know. Bosnia is mostly Muslim, right? Serbia, Orthodox. Slovenia and Croatia, Catholic. They're part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So here we have a tectonic, no? We have areas where historically have clashes. No? Like in the model I show you, the culture, we're in the border, you know? So it's complicated, right? You have to be able to negotiate, no? And to, no? So mostly religion was important here, you know? Also, the Vatican, Germany, Western Europe was interested in breaking Yugoslavia. You know why? Because it was allied with Russia, more or less. It was independent. If you are independent, it's very difficult because they tell you, you have to join me, no? You are my enemy, no? So to be independent, really independent in the world is very difficult. No? Like Cuba was independent, you know, there was a problem with the United States, then Cuba has to ally with the Soviet Union, you know, because it's very close to the United States, you know. Iran is allied with Russia, you know. And Saudi Arabia historically has been allied with the United States, but now it's not so much, you know. Turkey is a very difficult thing because Erdogan, you know, has good relations with Russia. Actually, it's full. When I came from Mexico, the plane was full of Russians. Okay, because Russians cannot travel to Western Europe. They travel to Turkey, tourists, and they go to many places, right? So Turkish Airlines has a lot of Russians. There's a lot of Russians in Turkey as tourists. So my flight from Mexico to Istanbul was full of Russians. Okay, and so the situation is bad because the world has been kind of polarized. Okay, that's something another talk. You know, we should talk about it. It's difficult because the situation is getting bad. You know? Okay, there is a strong alliance between China and Russia. Okay, and they are very afraid of the United States. So they have the Western Bloc, no, Western Europe, Israel, United States, and you have more or less the Asian Bloc, but the Asian Bloc is growing fast, no, economically, and this one is economically doing very bad. Am I right or not? For example, in Germany, they are losing a lot of money. The economy is going down because the cheap energy is not anymore. The cheap gas is not going to Western Europe. Here, I see an example here. Here, the gasoline is very expensive. So it's very bad for the Lebanese economy, right? Energy. Everything is on energy, right? And the Russians have a lot of gas. Now, the gas Russia is producing is sold to China and who else? What else? India. And Turkey. Turkey gets gas from Russia and sells back with profit. So, I mean, these countries are in a difficult situation. As we're talking to you, difficult situation. Okay, so the important thing is that to more or less analyze among people, among countries, all this propensity metrics that has the historical, the political, you know, it's complicated. No? Okay, now I wrote here that it's fuzzy. What fuzzy means? You know what fuzzy means? Who knows fuzzy sets?
Inaccurate. Not accurate.
That's right. And kind of subjective. Let me give you an example. The number of people who are here, if nobody's hiding, others, you can count it. No? Give me the number of prime numbers between 10 and 25. I can tell you exactly what it is. No? Tell me how intelligent Ali he is a fuzzy number. How you measure it? No? How good are your relation among you? No? How many times you call yourself? No? How you measure it is complicated. No? So let me give you an example of fuzzy sets. Fuzzy. Let me define. Okay, let me define the set of numbers. Okay, you can think about it. Let's see if you can do it. Let me define the set of numbers that are real numbers that are higher than 5. No, natural numbers, integer. Higher than 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, no? Infinite. What are the integers much larger than 5?
Greater.
Much greater.
Much greater.
So we have this symbol, you know, they use, you know, twice larger than, no? Could you tell me who they are? The set of, let's say, real numbers such that x is much larger than 5. No, but tell me which ones they are. Not all. 10 satisfies that condition? No.
Has to be much, much greater.
I know. 1 million?
What is it?
10 to the 20? So, in the fuzzy set, very important, we define, for each element of our set, we define a membership function, in value. Okay? So, for each real number, it's a real, we define a qualification. from 0 to 1. That's the membership, okay? To each number, we give it a number. If it's very close to 1, it means that that number belongs to my set. So when I'm talking about numbers higher, much higher than 5, I want to give them a qualification. For example, here we have 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my qualification, okay? To the 6, 0, almost 0, 7, okay? And for example, this one, which is the 20, I give him the qualification 0.5. If it's 1,000, I'll give him 0.99. That's the membership. How much it belongs to my set. Okay? So that plot, that function, has some properties. What are the properties of that function? Mathematically. It's growing, what else? Monotonously, right? And it has an asymptotic behavior. It never reaches the 1. But you tell me, well, 10 to the 40 is very large compared with 5. I tell you, no. 10 to the 45 is even better. So it belongs more, okay? So in social sciences, instinctively, unconsciously, we always use fuzzy numbers. Okay, he's my friend, you know, and I give him a value maybe, no? But this function is not unique. You may say, well, you gave him a value to the number 20.5. No, I give him 0.35 because that's very high. So in sports, you use a lot of fuzzy qualifications. When you have a diving, you know, on artistic stuff, you know, like gymnastics, the referees qualify, make an average, and give you. Usually take out the highest value, the lowest. So it's very fuzzy. No, as you say, no, not very precise. But in running, for example, when you run 100 meters or you swim, there's no judgment. The guy, the woman that runs faster wins. Period. Okay. So even in soccer, you know, when in football, when there's a foul, you know, it's a foul, not a foul. No? I know the referee says no, yellow. No? So many of the way we think like this are fuzzy stuff. Unlike physics and mathematics, well, physics, for example, you have lights, the amperage, the amperes, no? Or the capacity of my bottle, you can measure it with precision. Yeah? In chemistry, but social stuff is very complicated, right? So, well, all these things we learned, were motivated by the invasion of Iraq by the United States in 2003. Okay? And here we have a map of the invading coalition. Yeah? There are more countries. Where there are more countries in red? Where do you have more countries invaded? Which part of the world? Europe. Okay? Eastern Europe. See, there was a counter-revolution, you know, they were to friends of the United States, etc. So many people died, you know, in Iraq, also because of health. No law, poor health care, you know, there were many estimations of how many people died, you know. This is according to the Americans, a list of countries that invaded. Okay, this is better. Bulgaria, Georgia, Estonia, even El Salvador, Honduras, small countries in Mexico, near Mexico, you know, 10 troops. To put numbers, we have here the number of troops. Okay, can you see it? Okay, you don't see it very well. United States, United Kingdom, Italy, Poland, Ukraine, Spain. Here, at the very low, we have very few soldiers or troops. Estonia, New Zealand, send 61, 70. Just a small number of policemen, you know, so more symbolic, no? They send troops. So the Americans say, well, you have to join the war, yeah? Invasion. But we found something interesting. No? We use this model, you know, we estimated with fuzzy variables, you know, all the countries, you know, and we found something very interesting, you know, very strange. That Israel, okay, has two forces. The United States pushing Israel to send troops. If you are a good friend of the United States, you, what the United States tells you, send troops to Iraq, right? Israel didn't do it. At the same time, there's another force between Israel and Iraq. They don't like each other, okay? So you have double force, double pressure for Israel to invade Iraq. And the model failed. Why invade? Tell me why. Why not? It was normal, no? If United Kingdom is allied with the United States, they send troops, okay? If Colombia had a right-wing government and very good friend of the United States, they send troops, yeah? So something happened, no? So we say, well, what's going on, no? Because the model is not good. It has some problems, okay? This is a three-body problem. Okay, the interactions, we put here, interactions, I mentioned, has to do with the metrics, right? Okay? Israel with Iraq, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, etc. But actually the reality is more complex than that because we have three-body interactions. Okay? When this girl marries this guy, he's interacting with also someone else. Okay? In social interaction, when I talk to Ali, I talk to him in a way, but some people watching, I have to suffer some perturbation. So interactions are not so simple. Okay? You interact with family, no? When you get married, you know, you interact with family, no? You also join family. For example, here is this supposedly good friend with this guy, you know? Too bad, you know? So let's say we have interaction between Henry and Maria. No? So the interaction does not depend only on the relative distance between H and M. It's more complex. You're also interacting with X, no? The angle. If the angle is smaller, then there's a lot of perturbation. So actually, when you, in social life, define networks by pairs, it's not good enough. Instead of pairs, you have to use at least triangles. Here it is. Okay? And in the upper part, we have like you know, the way they behave. When they are all apart, you know, the enemies, here, they get together. That depends on how you are friend or enemy in the three cases. It's complicated, right? So the Hamiltonian I showed you before, the Hamiltonian two-body has to be changed. This is three-body. Remember? Okay, let me define this well. When you minimize the frustration or energy, when you minimize the frustration, we had this equation by pairs. I interacts with J. S is the strength. This is normalized to 1. And J, this capital J, is positive or negative, right? But in a three-body interaction, it's more complex because our energy of Hamiltonian, as physicists like it to mention, interaction, is more complex. You have three bodies, okay, relating I, J, and K. So in general case, you can have two-body interaction and three-body. In physics, we have two-body interactions. Except in nuclear forces, in the nucleus, protons and neutrons interact with three-body forces. Very complex, very complicated. But in electromagnetism, or in the gravitation, you have two masses, or two charges in the case of electrical forces, and interaction between 1 and 2 goes as Q1, Q2, okay? It's Q1, Q2. If repulsive, if they have the same charge, attractive, you have, no? Okay? Similar to gravity, gravity is attractive. So it's only by pairs. If I have another Q3 charge interacts with 1 and 2, but I don't put here the Q3, right? That will be 3 body. So I claim that in social interactions, the way you talk to someone or you interact depends on others. Here are the conclusions. Okay? Also, I introduced to you the idea of fuzzy variables, fuzzy interactions. A teacher, a professor, when he gives you the grade, that's a fuzzy variable. Maybe Ali is more strict than I am, and instead of giving you how you grade here? From 0 to 10? What is the maximum? 10 in a course? Unit, the knight, the rook, etc. So, and if it's very close to the king, you give more value. So, a good programmer put numbers, and you minimize. You choose different moves. You select the one that is better according to your program. For a good chess player, when he makes a move, he says, "Well, maybe this is good, better than this one." It's kind of fuzzy, because it takes into account many things, but not with numbers. Okay, really. So the way machines think sometimes are very different from the way we think, right? Socially. Okay, so more questions. So we talk about blocks, alliances, economics. An important thing is not only think about numbers, because that happens in economics, that people write an equation and give the result. Say, no, it's wrong. It's incomplete. You're not putting into account social damage. Ecological damage. I'm in a company, I'm mining, I'm making money, but you are contaminating the environment. So in economics, usually they don't have enough variables. Okay? But there's mathematics. So I see in my university that people are very good in integrating, derivating, programming, but sometimes they don't know things about reality, which is complicated because there are different sources. Yeah? Okay? To know exactly what's happening is complicated. For example, you watch an Israeli channel, the Palestinians are really bad, the Palestinians are terrible, are terrorists, they're stupid, etc. Oh, you say, no? And you go to the American side, to the Russian side, it's propaganda, it's complicated. To know what's happening, to be objective, is very difficult. Okay? It's very difficult. So you have to see all points of view. And usually, they tell you poor people is poor because they don't want to work. It's that part of the reality, but not always. They don't have opportunities. Okay? I have another presentation. I think I have time, but it has to do with initial conditions. Why some people are richer than others, more successful countries. It has to do with initial conditions. Okay? It's not the same to be born in a good Lebanese family as you were born as a poor person in Cameroon or Bolivia. So it's more difficult. Why they are poor has to do with history, many things. So initial conditions, opportunities, right? And usually economics is very important because most of the wars are for money. Okay? And many of the problems we have with immigration is because we have a lot of inequality, right? So money is not invested correctly. Rich people invest money to make them richer, not to help people. So I think that's a good part of religion, that you have to think about the others. If you just think on yourself, terrible. For example, in Muslims, usually banks are also important. Banks, you have to think about the poor. That's important. And in Christianity, I think there was a treason, because Catholicism, Christianity, at the beginning was good, but then some bishops in the Roman Empire, allied with rich. See, I was in the Vatican, it's full of jewelry, gold, so, boy, what is this, So many people send money to the Vatican, and they have bank, So the problem is economical mostly, because people, also it's a problem. When you start in school and mix all together, it's good. In the United States, they have segregation, blacks and whites. Huh? Or in South Africa, also was very bad. The apartheid was very bad because depending on your color, it was your salary. And they have all separation. Huh? Mahatma Gandhi lived in South Africa, no? And he suffered, because he was brown, So many of the problems, are due to social, economical, lack of opportunities. Okay? So thank you very much. I'm very glad to come here, It's a big university, similar to mine. Mine is very big, but it has campuses all over, Mexico has 130 million people. Lebanon has 5 million, you said?
Maximum 6.
Maximum. So it's like,
2 million not Lebanese.
yeah, so Mexico is like 20 times, no?
20 times.
20 times. And also many Mexicans live in the United States, mostly, and they send money, like here, And, okay, now, all these things I mentioned could also use analyzing the actual situation between China, Russia, etc. Okay? Which is very bad, because it's not only polarized, it's getting divided. It's very bad because some countries are in between, and what are you doing? So, okay, now also I noticed that Lebanon is a great country. I like it, but not much industry, right? Industry. No. You have agriculture, you have factories. Why?
You have big industry,
No, that's bad,
Service.
Yeah, service.
Mm-hmm. This is our problem, economic problem now.
Yes.
We don't product anything in the country.
And do you have any refinery?
Refinery, no.
When you have oil, you have to,
Before
We've been working on it soon.
Energy is important, for the future.
very
Okay, you have any questions, I have to go back to, I'll take a tour, it's a nice university. Do you have any questions about all the topics we saw, We saw social earthquakes, alliances, wars, economics, fuzzy variables. So fuzzy is important because in economics and social stuff, you don't have too much mathematics, but you have some ideas, that you can put into numbers, more or less. I'm going to give you another talk tomorrow, no, on Thursday. On Thursday, I have another one at the American University. And I'm going to talk about something very ugly, which are the... Well, important. Let me show you. I want to talk about this... I want to talk about these things, which are not very nice, Since the drug market in the United States is very strong, they pay very well, the money. I want to talk about...
Mexico.
Yes. We're talking about the war against drug trafficking,
Okay.
And all the problems, You have statistics about the people being killed, the weapons, And I think they are paying for the transportation. If people go tomorrow, it's at 2:00. Yeah. We are going to talk about networks, of criminal gangs, and the problems on the border, because it's a huge problem. This is the border, This is the border between Mexico and the United States.
I will explain them in Arabic too.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Marcelo.
You're welcome.